Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on The Flash Season 6, and of course this is going to be my review for Episode 3 for this season, otherwise entitled Dead Man Running. But of course, before we get into the rest of the video, if you've not watched the episode, go watch it, because, spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about everything that went down in this episode for the most part. But yeah, of course, if you're going to enjoy the video, drop a like on it to show support, and just, I guess, drop a like if you enjoy the episode in general, and let me know all your various opinions on this episode in the comment section down below. Interested to see what you thought of it. But of course, last episode was the big Crisis tease episode where we actually saw Barry's mind go to Crisis, at least. Not himself physically, but his mind went there, saw billions of possible futures and billions of potential deaths, where essentially the only, potential future in which everyone lives is the future in which, unfortunately, he dies. So that's not very good for Barry. So that's going to be something that we see not only continue into this episode, but of course leading up to Crisis. And of course, right at the end of last episode, we saw Ramsey Rosso essentially doing tests on Mitch Romero, who was the guy that he accidentally killed. And Mitch Romero, well, he comes back to life, and we have basically a zombie dude. And just speaking of Mitch Romero, he starts off the episode, he basically attacks the weapon dealers, which he worked for. That was like his thing. So it's like a mental thing that he goes back there, which ties up to stuff that happens later in the episode. But with Mitch Romero, I think I mentioned this in my trailer breakdown for the episode, but I think his name is just an Easter egg, like the whole zombie thing. You know, Romero, George Romero, Dawn of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead, big zombie king dude. I think that's the little Easter egg nod thing there, so yeah. But in regards to following on from Crisis, we actually do see Barry sit down and just tell the rest of Team Flash about Crisis and just the Monitor meeting up with them in the Time Vault and essentially what's coming, but he doesn't give the specifics around the fact that he's meant to die. Obviously, Cisco and Caitlin specifically knew that he was meant to vanish, but obviously now Barry was told, like, yo, you're dying. You're not vanishing, you're actually dying. Now this is like the fact that Barry was holding on to this, not a lie, but just like keeping the truth from them from a bit, obviously eats away at him, and you know, certain things sort of push him to actually revealing the truth later on. Now, one of the things that we knew was sort of going to be gone over in this episode was like a Ralph family secret, but it was pretty vague in regards to what it said in the synopsis, and it's actually Ralph's mother that shows up, and she apparently robbed a pawn shop. Not that pawn shop, you know, like a secondhand goods, you know, trade in, get your gold in there and stuff like that. And essentially a decent amount of this episode is like a mission, I guess you could say, to clear her name, and we actually do find out that she's been lying to Ralph about people that he cared about, and Ralph just sees this as like a bit of a betrayal, that she's just been lying to him for so long, especially about people that he saw as family, essentially. But towards the end of the episode, we find out that Ralph's mother lied about these people leaving, as she was dedicated to Ralph. Like, Ralph's father left when he was a young age, didn't even say goodbye. She was a single mother raising him, so she was just trying to protect her son and not give him that same feeling, you know, making Ralph blame himself that all these people left and stuff like that. And I actually thought this was a pretty good side story. For a side story I didn't really have that much interest in, I was actually like, wow, that's actually pretty good, and actually a bit of just development for Ralph as a character and a bit of insight. But of course we saw Frost, or Killer Frost, it was called Frost, tagging along with Barry this episode, you know, because Barry's going to teach them, all the different members, you know, some stuff before Crisis hits. So Frost tags along with Barry to a crime scene and suspects that Ramsey Rosso is the thief immediately, which actually just brings Ramsey into the episode. So really, if Frost wasn't there, there wouldn't have been any Barry meeting Ramsey thing, which I was surprised, and that was, I don't know, it's not really that surprising. That's the way that they meet. But it just the manner in which it happened. Sorry, I wasn't really suspecting or expecting. But essentially, this leads Barry to essentially getting Ramsey to help him with the case after learning that he's an expert in blood, which makes sense because of all the blood that was everywhere and all the just like the weird substance of blood that was left on the crime scenes. Now we do actually have the Flash and Frost versing like the whole Mitch Romero zombie thing, and we do see Frost's axe that could have potentially killed Romero, and obviously Barry is heavily against this. He needs her to essentially, I guess you could say, fit his like moral code, if you want to say, before Crisis, like, you know, because Frost is essentially acting the opposite way that Barry would. So obviously Barry's going to get that in line. But in the whole Mitch Romero zombie thing, we do see Ramsey eventually brought into Star Labs, which is a big cliche on the show. You bring your enemy into the place you work and into the team. But we do see Ramsey actually stealing dark matter. So Ramsey isn't really holding a facade for that long. It's like, you know, quickly and then just get the stuff done very quickly. So it was pretty interesting they moved it along that quick. But essentially this season is a big, like, just move everything along quickly and just get through it all, which I think is actually working for the most part now. But we do have Ramsey having a speech, which is essentially a parallel to Barry, about like both of them heading for, well, crisis and a death, and like no real safety route in sight for either of them, like unless they go to extremes, which Ramsey is here, and I'm guessing that Barry might as well eventually down the road in crisis. And even just a little thing about like how both of their mothers are dead as well, like just little things. There's a lot of similarities between Barry and Ramsey. But we do actually see Barry convince Ramsey to team up with him to take down Mitch Romero, which leads to some pretty interesting things. But on the other side story for this episode, we have the new Harrison Wells in town. We basically get led to him from Allegra, the girl from last episode who now works for Iris, getting security footage and giving it to Iris. Now, I'm assuming we're going to get much more of that this season. Just it's like a new way to meet metas. Like they'll get, oh, there's this new meta. Maybe we should dive into them and all these different things. And like along with the Cecile stuff we saw last episode where it's like police cases and this, I think this is going to be like an interesting way to make the Central City Citizen more relevant, because it's going to be pretty hard to make it relevant. And I think this is the place you have to have Iris, because once again, she does stand out like a sore thumb when it comes to the Team Flash stuff. So this is like the place in which she is able to, I guess, like stand up and be seen and it work. I think that's the best way to go about it. But this new Harrison Wells is Harrison Nash Wells. I don't think we find out in Earth, but he is looking for Eternium, whatever that is. We'll have to wait and see if that's actually revealed later on. Now, if you'd watched my videos leading up to this, you would have heard me say that apparently he has an Australian accent. He's only been seen on set once. Actually, well, by the time he was actually seen on Crisis set very quickly, but not actually acting. So I'm guessing the Australian accent was heard, because it was said by a couple of people. So I'm guessing the Australian accent was just something that Tom Kavanagh, who plays the various versions of Harrison Wells, was just doing in between takes to have a bit of fun or something, because he basically just sounds like almost like pretty much like Harry, I guess, like just a normal Wells. So yeah. But we do find out that Frost is essentially fighting angry and so aggressively due to the thought of her impending death, which makes sense, you know. It makes sense that that's like why she was going about things that way and acting so, I guess, irrationally and so aggressive. So it's good that they made that clear. But we do see Mitch Romero get into Star Labs, which isn't always that good, but Ramsey realizes basically when Mitch is there that he can control Mitch, which basically leads to him realizing he can control blood, which is Bloodwork's big thing in the comics. Now, Barry puts Mitch Romero, zombie person, in the pipeline, but he breaks out. So this just shows how powerful like this whole thing is right here. So pretty crazy. It's going to be interesting to see how it is when we eventually get to the, I guess, like the culmination of this storyline. But essentially, Frost thinks up an idea to make Romero overdose on dark matter. So there's that a bit of like Caitlin mixing in there with Frost. It seems like it, but it ends with a pretty messy ending with blood going everywhere, which is pretty gruesome. Now, speaking of Ramsey, he does test this new cure on himself. He's on the hunt for more though. Like Ramsey is pretty evil now. Like I think in the first episode he wasn't that bad. He was just a bit of I don't know, just a bit like desperate, but now he's pretty much evil. I think he's crossed over to the path where he is pretty much a full-on villain and pretty evil. So it's going to be hard to see Ramsey take a step back now, but he's on the hunt for more blood, you know, in the manner that Mitch Romero's was. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who he gets it from. But we do end the episode off with a Killer Frost birthday party, which was very random. It was in the promo images, but it was just still random to see it happen. But Killer Frost, throughout this thing and talking with Barry, realizes that Barry is set to die in Crisis, because essentially when Barry ever talks about stuff after Crisis, he's always talking about other people. He's actually never talking about himself or referencing himself being involved with the other people. So Killer Frost, or Frost, figures this out pretty quickly, and essentially it forces Barry to give the news to both Ralph and Cisco as well. So yep, it's out of the bag. I did even tweet throughout the episode because Ramsey pretty much picked up on it. You could sense that Ramsey picked up on it. And I was like, it wouldn't surprise me if Ramsey is the one to reveal it to the other people. But I'm actually very happy that by the end of this episode, everyone knows on Team Flash at least. So I think that's the best way to go, rather than keeping it a secret, because secrets never work, especially with Team Flash. But the final shot of the episode is actually that new Wells opening a manhole and I guess finding Eternium, or sensing that Eternium is down that manhole or something along those lines. I'm interested. What do you think's down the manhole? Because I'm intrigued, because he's on the search for it, he's on the hunt, and he's definitely found it. So I wonder what is down that manhole. Have to wait and see, I guess. But yeah, guys, this episode was pretty solid for the most part. I like how it continued on the Crisis stuff really well, and it tied in like almost like a side story with the main story as well, with the Bloodwork stuff, which I thought was really good. And the Ralph stuff actually surprised me a lot in regards to how much, not like how it wasn't a waste of time, if that makes sense. So I think it was a pretty damn solid episode. Continuing on, I think we've had 3 good episodes to start off the season, which we don't really get. We haven't had that for a while in The Flash. 3 solid episodes to start off the season, so it's good to have that. But yeah, guys, if you enjoyed the video, it would be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions on what we went over. What was your favourite part of the episode? I'm interested to see what you guys have to say. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.